Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his face as he looked over his cornfields. The golden crops stretched far into the distance under the warm sun of New Eden. It was a good day for farming. The weather was perfect, and his family would have plenty to eat this winter. His wife Mary was hanging clothes on the line behind their small house. Their two children, Bobby and Katie, were playing in the yard. Bobby was 8 years old and loved to help his father with the farm work. Katie was only 5 and spent most of her time chasing butterflies and picking flowers. Jake smiled as he watched his family. Life on New Eden was simple but good. The colony had been growing for 15 years now. 12,000 people called this planet home. They grew food, raised animals, and lived in peace. There were no wars here, no fighting, just honest work and quiet days. The colony had one small town called Hope Valley. It had a school, a hospital, and a few shops. Most people lived on farms scattered across the green valleys. Everyone knew everyone else. They helped each other when times were hard and celebrated together when times were good. Jake was thinking about dinner when he heard a strange noise. It sounded like thunder, but the sky was clear. He looked up and saw something that made his blood freeze. Dark shapes were moving across the blue sky. They were too big to be birds and too fast to be clouds. "Mary!" he shouted. "Get the children and come here." Mary dropped the clothes she was holding and ran toward the house. She grabbed Bobby and Katie by the hands and pulled them close to her. The whole family stood together and stared at the sky. The dark shapes grew bigger. Jake could see they were ships. Huge metal ships with strange designs. They did not look like any human ships he had ever seen. These ships were long and thin, like giant metal snakes flying through the air. More ships appeared, dozens of them. Then hundreds. They filled the sky like a dark cloud that blocked out the sun. Jake felt his heart beating fast. His hands started to shake. "What are they, Daddy?" Katie asked. Her voice was small and scared. "I don't know, sweetheart," Jake said. He put his arm around his daughter and pulled his family closer. In Hope Valley, people were coming out of their houses and shops. They all looked up at the sky with fear and wonder. No one had ever seen alien ships before. New Eden was far from the main space routes. They never had visitors from other worlds. Captain Lisa Harper was in the colony's only armed ship, a cargo freighter, called the Defiance. She was not a military officer, just a trader who carried supplies between planets. Her ship had only basic weapons, meant to scare off pirates, not fight wars. Lisa turned on her radio and tried to contact the alien ships. "Unknown vessels, this is Captain Harper of New Eden Colony. Please identify yourselves and state your purpose." There was no answer. The alien ships just kept flying in perfect formation. They moved like they had done this many times before. Lisa tried again. "Unknown vessels, you are in New Eden space. This is a peaceful colony. We have no military forces. Please respond." Still no answer. Lisa felt sick in her stomach. Something was very wrong. On the ground, Jake saw bright lights beginning to glow under the alien ships. The lights grew brighter and brighter. They looked like tiny suns hanging in the sky. "Run!" Jake shouted. "Everyone run!" But there was nowhere to go. The alien ships were everywhere. The bright lights under the ships suddenly shot down toward the planet. Beams of pure energy struck the ground like lightning from heaven. The first beam hit Hope Valley. The small town disappeared in a flash of white light. The school, the hospital, the shops, and all the people in them were gone in 1 second. Where the town used to be, there was now only a smoking crater in the ground. Jake grabbed his family and started running toward the house. Maybe they could hide in the basement. Maybe the thick walls would protect them. But deep down he knew it was too late. More energy beams fell from the sky. They hit farms, forests, rivers, and mountains. Everything they touched turned to ash and smoke. The beautiful green valleys of New Eden became a burning wasteland. Captain Lisa Harper watched in horror from space. She turned on her ship's camera and started recording everything. Someone had to see this. Someone had to know what happened here. "This is Captain Lisa Harper," she said into the camera. "The time is 14:30, Colony Standard Time. Unknown alien vessels are attacking New Eden Colony. They are destroying everything. All buildings, all farms, all people. This is not a military strike, this is murder. Another wave of energy beams fell from the alien ships. Lisa saw Jake Morrison's farm disappear in the fire. She saw hundreds of other farms suffer the same fate. 12,000 innocent people were dying, and she could do nothing to save them. Lisa's ship was too small and too weak to fight the alien fleet. All she could do was record their crime and hope someone would see it. She had to get the message out. The rest of humanity had to know what these aliens had done. The alien ships kept firing for 3 hours. They did not stop until every living thing on New Eden was dead. Every building was destroyed. Every tree was burned. The planet that had been green and beautiful was now black and empty. When the aliens finished their work, they flew away. They did not land. They did not take anything. They did not even check if anyone was still alive. They had come only to kill, and now their job was done. Lisa Harper was the only human left alive in the New Eden system. Her small ship drifted, in space above the dead world. She looked down at the smoking ruins and wept. They came without warning, she said to her camera. They came without demands. They just killed us all. Admiral Ryan Cole was drinking coffee on the bridge of his flagship Retribution when the message came in. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been fighting in space for 30 years, and he thought he had seen every kind of war there was to see. The communication officer turned to face him. "Sir, we have an emergency transmission from the New Eden system. It's from a cargo ship called the Defiance." "Put it on screen," Ryan said. Captain Lisa Harper's face appeared on the main display. Her face was wet with tears, and her voice shook as she spoke. "This is Captain Lisa Harper. The New Eden colony has been destroyed by unknown alien forces. All 12,000 colonists are dead. I repeat, New Eden is gone." Ryan felt the coffee cup slip from his hands. It crashed to the floor, but he did not notice. New Eden was where he had grown up. His younger brother Kevin lived there now with his wife and 2 young children. "Sir?" the communication officer asked. "Should I send a reply?" "Play it again," Ryan said quietly. They watched the message 3 more times. Each time Ryan hoped he had heard it wrong. But the words never changed. His brother was dead. His home was gone. Ryan stood up slowly. "Set course for Earth. Maximum speed. And send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them Admiral Cole is coming home and he wants every ship we have." 3 days later, Captain Harper's recording reached the Human Colonial Senate on Earth. Senator Amy Watson was in her office when her assistant brought her the datapad. Amy had been born on New Eden 43 years ago. Her parents still lived there. At least they had lived there 3 days ago. She watched the recording in silence. She saw the alien ships appear in the sky like dark clouds. She saw the energy beams fall like rain. She saw her childhood home turn to ash and smoke. When the recording ended, Amy sat still for a long time. Then she picked up her phone and called an emergency meeting of the Senate. 2 hours later, the great Senate chamber was full. Representatives from every human colony had come as fast as they could. The room was quiet as Amy walked to the speaking platform. "Fellow senators," she began, 3 days ago, an alien race called the Zephyrians attacked our colony at New Eden. They killed 12,000 innocent men, women, and children. They destroyed every building, every farm, every living thing on the planet. She pressed a button, and Captain Harper's recording began to play on the giant screens around the chamber. The senators watched in shocked silence as New Eden burned. "They came without warning," Amy continued. "They made no demands. They sent no messages. They simply decided that humans should die, so they killed us." When the recording ended, the chamber erupted in angry voices. Some senators demanded immediate military action. Others wanted to try diplomacy first. A few suggested that humanity should hide and hope the aliens would leave them alone. Amy raised her hand for silence. "There will be no hiding," she said, firmly. "There will be no diplomacy with murderers. The Zephyrians have declared war on humanity by their actions. Now humanity will show them what war really means." The vote was unanimous. Every senator agreed to mobilize the entire human defense force. They would build the largest war fleet in human history. They would hunt down every Zephyrian ship and base they could find, and they would make sure that New Eden was avenged. Admiral Ryan Cole arrived at Earth the next day. He went straight to the Pentagon, the headquarters of the Human Defense Force. The Secretary of Defense was waiting for him in the war room. "Ryan," the secretary said, "I'm sorry about your brother." "Thank you, sir," Ryan replied, "but I'm not here to mourn. I'm here to fight." The secretary nodded. "The President has authorized Operation Vengeance. You will command a combined fleet of every available human warship. Your mission is to find the Zephyrian Empire and destroy their military capability." Ryan looked at the star charts on the wall. Red markers showed the positions of human colonies scattered across dozens of star systems. "How many ships can you give me?" "All of them. 800 vessels total. Dreadnoughts, cruisers, destroyers, frigates, support ships, everything we have. It will take 2 weeks to gather them all at the rally point." Ryan smiled for the first time since hearing about New Eden. That should be enough. Dr. Paul Carter was already hard at work in his laboratory when Ryan came to visit him. Paul was the head of human military research, a brilliant scientist who had been developing new weapons based on alien technology found on ancient battlefields. "Admiral," Paul said, without looking up from his work, "I heard about New Eden. I'm sorry." "What can you give me, Paul?" Ryan asked. "I need weapons that can hurt them as much as they hurt us." Paul finally looked up. His eyes were bright with excitement and anger. "The Zephyrians use plasma weapons. Very advanced, very deadly. But I've been studying plasma technology for years. I think I can do them one better." He led Ryan to another room where technicians were working on strange-looking missiles. "Quantum torpedoes," Paul explained. "They don't just explode, they disrupt the fabric of space itself. One of these can tear a hole in a battleship's hull that never stops growing." "How many can you make in 2 weeks?" Ryan asked. 500, maybe 600 if we work day and night." "Do it," Ryan ordered. "And Paul, make them hurt." Meanwhile, Senator Amy Watson was meeting with the families of New Eden's victims. The colony's few survivors were people who had been away from the planet when the attack happened. There were only 37 of them. Nancy Morrison was one of them. She was Jake Morrison's sister, and she had been visiting Earth when her brother died. Now she sat in Amy's office, her face pale and her hands shaking. "My brother was a good man," Nancy said. "He never hurt anyone. He just wanted to grow crops and raise his children. Why did they kill him?" Amy took Nancy's hands in hers. "I don't know why they did it. But I promise you this. They will pay for what they've done. Every Zephyrian warship will be destroyed. Every Zephyrian base will be bombed. They will learn that humans do not forget, and we do not forgive." Captain Lisa Harper was also on Earth telling her story to military intelligence officers. They wanted to know everything about the Zephyrian ships, their weapons, their tactics. "They were fast," Lisa said. "Faster than our ships, and their weapons were incredibly powerful. But they seemed to be following a plan. They knew exactly what they wanted to do." "Did they try to communicate with the colony?" an officer asked. "Never. They ignored our radio calls. They just came, killed everyone, and left. It was like we weren't even people to them. Just things to be swept away." The officer made notes on his data pad. "This information will help Admiral Cole plan his attack strategy." 2 weeks later, the Human Vengeance Fleet assembled at the rally point near Proxima Centauri. 800 ships floated in space like a steel cloud. There were massive dreadnoughts with enough firepower to crack planets. There were fast cruisers built for hit-and-run attacks. There were destroyers designed to hunt enemy ships like wolves hunting deer. Admiral Ryan Cole stood on the bridge of the Retribution and looked at his fleet. These ships represented the entire military might of humanity. Every colony had sent their best vessels and their bravest crews. "Open a channel to all ships," Ryan ordered. When every captain and crew member in the fleet could hear him, Ryan began to speak. "Warriors of humanity," he said. 3 weeks ago, the Zephyrians murdered 12,000 innocent people on New Eden. They thought we would be afraid. They thought we would hide. They were wrong. He paused and looked out at the stars where his enemies were waiting. We are going to find them. We are going to hunt them. And we are going to show them that humanity's mercy has limits. New Eden will be avenged. Captain Beth Morgan had been hunting Zephyrians for 2 months when she found her biggest target yet. Her destroyer Vanguard was hidden behind an asteroid field in the Kepler system, watching a Zephyrian supply base on a small moon. Beth was young for a ship captain, only 32 years old. But she had grown up on a military base and knew how to fight. More importantly, she knew how to hate. Her best friend had lived on New Eden. "How many ships are docked at the base?" she asked her tactical officer. 12, Captain. Mostly supply. Vessels, but I count 3 warships. Light cruisers by the look of them. Beth smiled coldly. "Perfect. Signal the rest of the task force. We attack in 1 hour." The Vengeance fleet had broken into smaller groups after leaving Earth. Admiral Cole knew that one giant fleet would be too slow and too easy to spot. Instead, he sent fast attack groups to hit Zephyrian targets all across their territory. Beth's task force had 6 destroyers and 2 cruisers. They specialized in quick strikes against enemy bases and supply lines. In 2 months, they had destroyed 15 Zephyrian outposts and sunk 40 enemy ships. The Zephyrians were starting to notice. At first, they thought the attacks were just random pirate raids. But the pattern was too clear. Someone was hunting them systematically. Admiral Zex Thyron commanded the Zephyrian Second Fleet from his flagship Dominator. He was a proud warrior who had conquered 7 star systems for the Empire. He did not think much of humans. "These hairless apes are becoming annoying," he told his staff officers. "How many bases have we lost this week?" 6, sir, his aide replied nervously. "And we lost contact with Patrol Group 7 yesterday." Zex slammed his fist on the table. "Impossible. Humans are primitive creatures with weak ships and weaker weapons. How can they threaten the might of the Empire?" His aide did not answer. Everyone in the Zephyrian military knew that human technology was supposed to be inferior. But the battle reports were hard to argue with. Human ships were faster than expected, their weapons more powerful, their tactics more clever. Back at the Kepler base, Beth's attack was beginning. The 8 human ships came out of the asteroid field like metal sharks attacking a school of fish. They fired everything they had at the surprised Zephyrian vessels. The first salvo of missiles destroyed 2 supply ships before they could even raise their shields. The Zephyrian warships tried to fight back, but they were outnumbered and caught completely off guard. "Target the fuel depot," Beth ordered. "I want this base to burn for a week." The Vanguard's main guns fired quantum torpedoes at the Zephyrian fuel storage tanks. The explosions lit up space like a second sun. The blast was so bright that ships on the other side of the system could see it. When the battle was over, every Zephyrian ship was destroyed. The base was a smoking ruin. Beth's task force had lost only 1 destroyer, and even that ship could be repaired. "Good work, everyone," Beth announced over the fleet communication system. "That's another 12 aliens who will never hurt humans again." Meanwhile, Colonel Danny Rivera was leading a very different kind of mission. His Special Forces team had landed on a Zephyrian world called Theros Prime. Their job was to gather intelligence about enemy fleet movements and base locations. Danny and his 12 soldiers wore advanced stealth suits that made them almost invisible. They had been on Theros Prime for a week, hiding in the forests and watching the main military complex. "I count 36 ships in the orbital shipyard," his sergeant whispered into the radio. "Looks like they're building a new battle fleet." Danny nodded and made notes on his data pad. This information would help Admiral Cole plan future attacks. "Any sign of their command center?" "Negative, sir, but I did overhear some interesting radio chatter. Sounds like they're planning to evacuate some of their outer colonies." This was good news. If the Zephyrians were pulling back their forces, it meant the human attacks were having an effect. The aliens were scared. That night, Danny's team broke into a Zephyrian communication center. They copied thousands of files containing fleet positions, supply schedules, and tactical plans. The data would be invaluable for future operations. As they prepared to leave Theros Prime, Danny received an urgent message from Admiral Cole. The main Zephyrian battle fleet had been spotted near the Vega system. The Admiral was gathering all available forces for a major attack. 3 days later, the largest space battle in human history began near Vega. Admiral Cole had assembled 200 ships, including his most powerful dreadnoughts Thunderbolt and Lightning Strike. The Zephyrian Fourth Fleet was waiting for them. Admiral Zex Thyron had finally convinced the Empire to take the human threat seriously. He commanded 120 warships, including the massive battleship destroyer of worlds. "This ends today," Ryan Cole said as the two fleets faced each other across empty space. "All ships commence attack." The battle lasted 6 hours. Human ships darted in and out of the Zephyrian formation like angry wasps, firing missiles and energy beams. The new quantum torpedoes tore through enemy armor like it was paper. The Zephyrians fought bravely, but they were not prepared for human tactics. Their ships were built for direct frontal assaults against primitive enemies. They did not know how to deal with fast, clever opponents who attacked from unexpected angles. Captain Beth Morgan, who had arrived just in time for the battle, led a squadron of destroyers against the enemy's left flank. Her ships moved so fast that the Zephyrian gunners could not track them. She destroyed 4 cruisers before they could return fire. Admiral Zex Thyron watched his fleet being torn apart and could not understand what was happening. These humans were supposed to be weak. Their technology was supposed to be inferior. How were they winning? His flagship Dominator shuddered as human missiles struck its hull. Warning lights flashed on the bridge. His officers reported damage to engines, weapons, and life support systems. "Sir, we're losing this battle," his tactical officer said. "We should retreat while we still can." But Zex was too proud to run. "Never. The Empire does not retreat from hairless apes." His ship exploded 10 minutes later when a quantum torpedo hit its reactor core. Admiral Zex Thyron died still believing that humans were primitive creatures who should have been easy to defeat. When the Battle of Vega was over, 67 Zephyrian ships had been destroyed. The human fleet lost only 8 vessels. It was a crushing victory that shocked the entire Zephyrian Empire. Back on the Zephyrian homeworld, the High Command held an emergency meeting. General Vex Kaltor, the officer who had ordered the attack on New Eden, found himself facing angry questions from his superiors. "You told us the humans were weak," the High Archon said. "You said they would be easy to destroy. Now they have annihilated our 4th Fleet and are attacking our bases throughout the Empire." General Kaltor tried to defend himself. "My lord, our intelligence was wrong. These humans are more advanced than we thought. Their weapons are powerful, their ships are fast, and their tactics are cunning. Your intelligence was wrong because you did not bother to study your enemy," another general accused. "You saw primitive farming colonies and assumed all humans were farmers. Now we are paying the price for your arrogance." The High Archon raised his hand for silence. "The question now is what we do about it. Our fleet commanders are requesting more ships, more weapons, more soldiers, but our enemies seem to grow stronger with every battle." General Kaltor was removed from command that same day. He was replaced by General Nex Voron, a younger officer who specialized in fighting difficult enemies. But even General Voron was worried. The human attacks were not random raids anymore. They showed clear signs of planning and intelligence gathering. The humans seemed to know where every Zephyrian base was located and when every patrol would be passing by. Worse, the humans were not just fighting to defend their territory. They were actively hunting Zephyrian forces throughout the galaxy. They seemed determined to destroy the Empire completely. "My lord," General Voron said to the High Archon, "I believe we may have made a serious mistake when we attacked New Eden. These humans are not the primitive creatures we thought they were. They are warriors, and now they are angry warriors." The High Archon looked out at the stars where human fleets were hunting his people. For the first time in his long life, he felt afraid. Admiral Ryan Cole received the report of the Vega victory while his fleet was refueling at a captured Zephyrian base. He read the casualty reports with satisfaction. 8 human ships lost, but hundreds of Zephyrian lives taken in return. "Sir," his communication officer said, We're receiving messages from human colonies throughout the sector. They're all reporting the same thing. Zephyrian forces are retreating. Ryan smiled grimly. The enemy was finally beginning to understand that attacking New Eden had been a mistake, but the war was far from over. He would not stop until every Zephyrian warship was scrap metal floating in space. Signal all task forces, he ordered. Continue the hunt. Show no mercy. They wanted to see what humans were capable of. Now they're learning. The Zephyrian homeworld of Zephyros Prime had never seen so many warships in orbit. General Nex Voron had gathered every available vessel from across the dying empire. 300 ships formed a defensive ring around the planet, from massive battleships to small patrol craft. The orbital defense platforms had been charged to full power. Thousands of automated weapons satellites drifted in space like metal moons. The planet's surface was protected by energy shields strong enough to stop asteroid impacts. But General Voron knew it would not be enough. The humans were coming with over 800 ships, and they had proven themselves to be superior fighters in every previous battle. Status report, he ordered from the bridge of his flagship Eternal Glory. All ships report ready for combat, sir, his aide replied. The orbital platforms are online. Ground-based missile systems are armed and targeting human approach vectors. Voron nodded grimly. And the civilian evacuation? 40% of the population has been moved to underground shelters. The rest refused to leave their homes. 2 billion Zephyrians lived on the homeworld. Even if the humans showed mercy, millions would die in the coming battle. Voron felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on him like a mountain. In deep space, the human vengeance fleet prepared for its final jump. Admiral Ryan Cole stood before a wall of screens showing the positions of every ship under his command. 800 vessels representing the entire military might of humanity. All ships report ready, Admiral, his fleet coordinator announced. Jump calculations are complete. We can begin the attack at your order. Ryan looked at the tactical display one more time. The Zephyrians had positioned their fleet well, using the planet's gravity and orbital defenses to their advantage. It would be a difficult battle, but the outcome was not in doubt. Open a channel to all ships, Ryan ordered. When every captain and crew member in the fleet could hear him, Ryan began his final speech before battle. Warriors of humanity. Today we face the homeworld of the Empire that murdered our people at New Eden. They have gathered their remaining forces to make a final stand. They hope to inflict enough casualties to force us to negotiate. He paused and looked out at the stars where his enemies waited. They are wrong. Today, the Zephyrian Empire ends. Today, justice is served. Today we prove that humanity will never again be underestimated by those who would do us harm. Ryan raised his fist. For New Eden, for our fallen, all ships, jump. 800 human warships vanished from normal space and reappeared in the Zephyros system like an avalanche of metal and fire. They emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, weapons charged and targeting systems locked on enemy vessels. General Voron watched the human fleet appear on his sensors and felt his heart sink. There were so many of them. Their ships moved with precision that spoke of superior training and technology. This was not going to be a battle. It was going to be an execution. All ships, open fire, he ordered. Fight for the Empire. The Battle of Zephyros Prime began with the largest exchange of weapons fire in galactic history. Thousands of missiles and energy beams crossed space in both directions. The darkness between the planets lit up like a festival of destruction, but the battle was one-sided from the beginning. Human ships moved faster and hit harder than their Zephyrian opponents. The new quantum torpedoes tore through enemy hulls, like they were made of paper. Advanced targeting computers allowed human gunners to hit targets that Zephyrian weapons could not even see. Captain Beth Morgan led her destroyer squadron against the enemy's right flank. Her ships danced through the Zephyrian formation like deadly butterflies, leaving burning wrecks in their wake. Destroy the orbital platforms, she ordered. Clear a path for the dreadnoughts. Her ships fired volleys of missiles at the automated defense stations. The platforms were heavily armored and well defended, but they could not match the mobility and firepower of human destroyers. Meanwhile, The massive dreadnought's thunderbolt and lightning strike pushed toward the center of the enemy formation. Their main guns were so powerful that each shot could vaporize a cruiser. The Zephyrian fleet tried to concentrate fire on these giants, but human escort ships protected them with walls of defensive fire. General Voron watched his fleet being systematically destroyed and knew that the battle was lost. His flagship shuddered as human missiles struck its hull. Warning lights flashed throughout the bridge. "Sir, we've lost contact with the 2nd Squadron," his tactical officer reported. "The 3rd Squadron is requesting permission to retreat." "No retreats," Voron ordered. "We die here, fighting for our world." But even as he spoke those brave words, Voron knew they were meaningless. The humans were not just winning. They were demonstrating their complete superiority in every aspect of warfare. Admiral Ryan Cole watched the battle from the bridge of the Retribution and felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. The Zephyrians were fighting bravely, but they were hopelessly outmatched. In 3 hours of combat, the human fleet had destroyed over 200 enemy ships while losing only 15 vessels. "Admiral," his tactical officer said, "enemy fleet cohesion is breaking down. Several squadrons are trying to flee the system." "Let them go," Ryan ordered. "Our fight is with their military, not their refugees." This was not entirely true. Some of the fleeing ships were warships whose captains had decided that dying for a lost cause was pointless. But Ryan was feeling generous in victory. The Empire was broken. A few escaped ships would not change that. The turning point came when the Thunderbolt's main guns found their target. General Voron's flagship Eternal Glory exploded in a ball of plasma that could be seen from the planet's surface. With their commanding general dead, the remaining Zephyrian ships began to surrender or flee. By the end of the day, the once mighty Zephyrian defense fleet was nothing but wreckage floating in space. The orbital platforms had been destroyed. The planet's shields had failed. Zephyros Prime lay defenseless before the human armada. Ryan opened a communication channel to the planet's surface. "This is Admiral Ryan Cole of the Human Defense Force. I am speaking to the High Archon and the remaining leaders of the Zephyrian Empire." The reply came quickly. The High Archon's face appeared on the main screen, but he looked like he had aged 50 years since their last communication. "I am here, Admiral. What are your terms?" "Unconditional surrender," Ryan said simply. "Your military forces will lay down their weapons immediately. Your government will dissolve itself and accept human occupation. War criminals will be handed over for trial." The High Archon closed his eyes in defeat. "And if we refuse?" Ryan gestured toward the tactical display, which showed hundreds of human ships in orbit around the planet. "Then I will be forced to use more persuasive methods. Dr. Carter's Hellfire missiles are very effective at changing minds." For a moment, Ryan considered actually using the planet-killer weapons. The Zephyrians had shown no mercy to New Eden. Why should humanity show mercy to them? But as he looked at the planet below, Ryan remembered what Senator Watson had said during the War Council meetings. "We are not fighting to become monsters. We are fighting to make sure monsters can never hurt us again." "I'm waiting for your answer," Ryan said to the High Archon. The alien leader looked out at his burning fleet and his defenseless world. "The Zephyrian Empire surrenders unconditionally. We place ourselves at your mercy." "You will have more mercy from us than you showed to New Eden," Ryan replied. "But make no mistake, your military will be dismantled. Your weapons will be destroyed. Your empire is finished." 3 days later, human Marines landed on Zephyros Prime and began the occupation of the capital city. General Kaltor was dragged from his prison cell and handed over to human authorities. He would face trial for war crimes, along with dozens of other Zephyrian officers. The High Archon was allowed to remain in power, but only as a figurehead. Real authority now rested with the human occupation government, led by Senator Amy Watson. Amy stood in the former throne room of the Zephyrian Palace and looked out at the city beyond. Millions of Zephyrians went about their daily lives under the watchful eyes of human soldiers. The empire that had once ruled dozens of star systems was now a single occupied world. "Senator," her aide said, The final casualty reports are in. We lost 37 ships and 4,000 personnel during the entire campaign. Zephyrian losses are estimated at over 800 ships and 2 million military personnel. Amy nodded sadly. War was always expensive, but this one had been necessary. And the war crimes trials? Beginning next week. We have evidence against over 300 Zephyrian officers, including everyone involved in planning or executing the New Eden attack. General Kaltor's trial was broadcast throughout human space. He sat in the defendant's chair and listened as the prosecutor read the charges against him. Murder of 12,000 civilians, crimes against humanity, genocide. Do you have anything to say in your defense? The judge asked. Kaltor stood up slowly. He looked older and more tired than his years. I followed the standard military procedures of my people. We have always eliminated primitive species that stood in the way of our expansion. I did not know that humans were different. Ignorance is not a defense for genocide, the judge replied. General Vex Kaltor sat in his prison cell on the Zephyrian homeworld and stared at the metal walls. 3 months ago, he had been a hero of the Empire, the conqueror of 7 star systems. Now he was waiting to be executed for his failures against the humans. The guards had given him daily reports about the war. Each day brought news of more defeats. Human fleets were advancing deeper into Zephyrian territory, destroying everything in their path. Entire star systems were being abandoned as Zephyrian forces retreated toward their core worlds. Kaltor could not understand how things had gone so wrong so quickly. The attack on New Eden should have been a simple matter. One small farming planet, 12,000 primitive humans, no military defenses. It should have been over in an hour. Instead, it had awakened a sleeping giant. The humans had proven to be far more dangerous than anyone in the Zephyrian military had imagined. Their ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, and their tactics more clever than any enemy the Empire had ever faced. A guard opened the cell door. Time to go, General. The High Archon is waiting. Kaltor walked through the corridors of the government building where he had once been welcomed as a hero. Now the other officers avoided looking at him. He was a symbol of the Empire's greatest mistake. The High Archon sat on his throne in the Great Hall. He was an ancient Zephyrian, over 300 years old, who had ruled the Empire for most of his life. He had seen many wars, but never one like this. General Kaltor, the High Archon, said in a tired voice, "Do you understand what your actions have cost us?" Kaltor knelt before the throne. "My lord, I followed standard military procedure. New Eden was a human colony and territory we wished to claim. I eliminated the inhabitants as ordered." "You eliminated them without studying them first," the High Archon replied angrily. "You assumed they were weak because their colony looked primitive. You never considered that they might have powerful allies or advanced weapons hidden elsewhere." The High Archon gestured to a wall screen that showed a map of the galaxy. Red areas marked human-controlled territory. Blue areas marked Zephyrian space. 3 months ago, the blue areas had been much larger. "Look at what your simple operation has cost us," the High Archon continued. "We have lost over 400 warships. 37 star systems have been abandoned. Our outer colonies are in panic, and our military commanders are requesting permission to retreat to the inner worlds." Kaltor stared at the map in shock. He had known the war was going badly, but he had not realized it was this bad. "My lord, surely our forces can regroup and counterattack." "With what?" the High Archon demanded. "Half our fleet is destroyed or scattered. The humans seem to know the location of every base, every patrol route, every supply convoy. They strike, when and where they choose, then disappear before we can respond." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Steve Johnson was proving the High Archon right. His experimental stealth cruiser Ghost was invisible to Zephyrian sensors as it drifted through their home system, gathering intelligence. Steve had volunteered for this dangerous mission because his parents had died on New Eden. He was one of the best pilots in the human defense force, and the Ghost was the most advanced ship ever built by human engineers. "Incredible," he whispered as he watched the Zephyrian defense preparations through his ship's cameras. "They're evacuating their outer planets. Look at all those civilian transports." His sensor operator nodded. I count over 1,000 ships moving toward the inner system. They're abandoning entire worlds to concentrate their forces around the homeworld. This was exactly what Admiral Cole needed to know. The Zephyrians were collapsing faster than anyone had expected. The human strategy of attacking everywhere at once was working perfectly. Steve activated his ship's communication system and sent an encrypted message back to the human fleet. Ghost to command. Target is in full retreat. Recommend immediate. Advance to Phase 3 operations. Back on Earth, Senator Amy Watson was meeting with Ambassador Hex Milan, the first Zephyrian diplomat to request peace talks with humanity. The alien was tall and thin with gray skin and large black eyes. He looked nervous and afraid. Senator Watson, the ambassador said in carefully pronounced English, my government wishes to discuss ending this conflict. Surely we can find a peaceful solution. Amy looked at him with cold eyes. Ambassador, your people destroyed New Eden without warning, without mercy, without cause. 12,000 innocent people died, including my own parents. Why should we discuss peace now? Because war benefits no one, Hex replied. Both our peoples are suffering. Many have died on both sides. Many Zephyrians have died, Amy corrected him. But they were all soldiers who chose to fight. The people your empire murdered on New Eden were farmers, teachers, children. They never lifted a weapon against anyone. The ambassador shifted uncomfortably in his chair. That action was taken by General Kaltor without proper authorization. He has been removed from command and will face trial for his crimes. Too little. Too late, Amy said firmly. Your empire made its choice when it decided to commit genocide. Now humanity has made its choice. There will be no negotiation. There will be no quarter. There will only be justice. Ambassador Hex left Earth the same day, carrying with him humanity's final answer to all Zephyrian peace offers. The war would continue until the Empire surrendered unconditionally or was destroyed completely. Dr. Paul Carter was working around the clock in his laboratory, developing new weapons for the final phase of the war. His latest creation was the Hellfire missile system, weapons so powerful they could crack a planet's crust. These are planet killers, he explained to Admiral Cole during a video conference. Each missile carries a quantum warhead that can trigger massive seismic activity. Fire enough of them at a world, and you can make it uninhabitable for thousands of years. Ryan looked troubled. Paul, I want to defeat the Zephyrians, not commit genocide. There are billions of civilians on their worlds. I know, Admiral. But the technology exists and they need to know we have it. Sometimes the threat of ultimate destruction is more effective than actually using it. Paul was right. When news of the Hellfire missiles leaked to Zephyrian intelligence, it caused panic throughout the Empire. Civilian populations on the outer worlds began demanding that their governments surrender before the humans decided to use their planet-killing weapons. General Nex Voron, the new Zephyrian military commander, called another emergency meeting with the High Archon. The news he brought was even worse than before. My lord, our defensive perimeter has collapsed completely. Human forces have broken through our lines in 12 sectors. They are advancing on the core worlds with over 600 ships. The High Archon looked older than his 300 years. How long before they reach the homeworld? 2 weeks, perhaps less. And my lord, our intelligence services have confirmed that the humans possess planet-destroying weapons. If they choose to use them. The High Archon did not need him to finish the sentence. The empire that had ruled this part of the galaxy for 1,000 years was facing complete destruction, all because one general had decided to kill some human farmers. What do you recommend, General? The High Archon asked. Surrender, my lord, immediately and unconditionally. It is our only chance to save what remains of our civilization. But the High Archon was not ready to give up yet. No, we still have our main battle fleet. We still have the orbital defenses around the homeworld. We will make one last stand. If we must die, we will die as warriors. As news of the approaching human armada spread throughout Zephyrian space, civilian populations began fleeing in panic. Transport ships loaded with refugees headed for distant star systems, hoping to escape the coming storm. On the military bases, soldiers prepared for what many believed would be their final battle. The humans had shown no mercy to any Zephyrian force they encountered. There was no reason to expect mercy now. Admiral Ryan Cole stood on the bridge of the Retribution and watched his massive fleet jump into hyperspace. 800 human warships were heading toward the Zephyrian homeworld for the final confrontation. "Admiral," his communication officer said, "we're receiving a message from Zephyrian High Command. They're broadcasting it on all frequencies. Put it on screen." The High Archon's face appeared on the main display. He looked tired and defeated, but his voice was still proud. "People of humanity," he said, "I am the High Archon of the Zephyrian Empire. I speak to you now to acknowledge that our attack on your colony was wrong. General Kaltor acted without my knowledge or approval. I offer to put him on trial for war crimes if you will agree to peace negotiations." Ryan laughed bitterly. "Too late for that, Your Majesty. You had 3 months to offer peace. Instead, your fleets kept fighting, your bases kept shooting at my ships. Now you want to talk because you're losing." He turned to his communication officer. "Send a reply on all frequencies. Tell the High Archon that humanity appreciates his offer, but we decline. Justice will not be served by putting one general on trial. Justice will be served when the Zephyrian Empire no longer has the power to murder innocent people." The message was broadcast throughout Zephyrian space. On every world and every city, Zephyrians heard humanity's final answer.